Alright everyone, I know this isn't the most hard-hitting piece of news, but sometimes I like something that's a little bit more lighthearted, has a little more levity, because I had to talk about the fucking debt deal earlier, so now we'll talk about something funny. Link in the description, please watch it for yourself. Mariannewilliamson's latest great pitch to the voters. I wonder why she's 10 points behind RFK Jr., who is in turn like 40 points behind Biden. By the way, a non-insurmountable gap. If you apply that logic to the Republican race, everyone's telling you Trump can still be beaten. This gap is fundamentally similar, you see, in a packed field. Little apples to oranges. Mariannewilliamson struggles to stay in the two-digit range in polling, and I wonder why that could be. Is it because I get the feeling that her real goal in life was to open a series of low-rent chain stores in strip malls where she sells, like, organite and, porcupine quills and stuff like that? She doesn't want to culturally appropriate any native groups, but, I promise I donated 10% to a UNICEF or something like that. She's totally off the chain. Listen to what she's saying here. She's effectively saying that politics should come from emotion, that love and justice need to lead the way in public policy. No. Love and your feelings, fuck your feelings. When feelings are brought up in the context of public policy, what happens? You get the Patriot Act. Think of the children. The people are afraid, so they're having feelings, and authoritarians capitalize upon that. Having feelings is bad in a legal system. You should not use any emotion at all when you are governing. You should only be pragmatic and logical. Mariannewilliamson, and this is evident just by her far leftism, is not capable of logic and reason. She's only capable of tugging on people's emotional strings. Hate to tell you, but Organite is not going to balance the budget. Love beads and meditation won't stop Ukraine from being hammered by Russian missiles, and foreign diplomats don't want to negotiate with you when you smell like patchouli. That's not the pragmatic way the world works. That is effectively a hippie utopian bullshit line that will never actually come true because it completely ignores human nature. Humans are cutthroat and competitive. That's why corporations exist. Human beings exist in a biological fashion in part to appropriate resources for themselves first, to survive, which is warped in the cultural context, admittedly, and to their children and family and those in-group groups. This is why governments form in the first place. It creates an artificial in-group, us versus them mentality, and that's also why war starts and why war can sometimes be avoided. It's all about shuffling around people's perception of who the we and them are. You can manipulate people real goddamn easy by doing so. Linguistics does it all the time, and many people do it on accident and don't even understand anything about propaganda and psyops. Hippie grandma is insistent on this, and this is not the first time that she's made a comment to this effect. I would be much more afraid of somebody who meant well, so they're not even malevolent, but they really are like a Carter-esque emo like Mariannewilliamson. I would be much more scared with somebody like that leading the country than someone that was simply the chiseled Mussolini face on that famous CCC ad there. Just chiseled and eyeless, literally, and with no emotion whatsoever. Complete absence of emotion. That's AI could run the country better than an emo like Mariannewilliamson. By the way, what acumen does she have? But can we please discuss her background? It's mostly in terms of religious congregations and rehabbing a failing church and then making a lot of money doing so. She succeeded at a business endeavor, well, quasi-business, so she does have the capability of managing things, but then we also get reports from her staff, right? And the accidental email or Twitter DM that was posted publicly that I laughed about weeks ago probably lends credence to this. Apparently she is not a genuinely nice person to work with and verbally berates people around her on a regular basis, becoming irate and screaming at them. Therefore, the outside facade that you see of hippie grandma with love beads and surrounded by Tibetan gongs and dory bells and stuff like that, with a meditation, the Zen garden, and pendulums and little fountains and shit, surrounded by herbs. Just literally, I imagine going to her house, there's probably at least one showroom in there that basically looks like, a Wiccan store. I'm sure that is the case. Then, of course, you go into her dining room. I have a feeling that it's a white tie affair most of the time. You know, she's a NIMBYist at this point almost. But behind the scenes, she's not like that. And there's many cases where people's public persona and their private life are a little bit different, and supposedly hers is one of them. Nonetheless, as far as public policy goes, she does genuinely seem to believe that Vladimir Putin will stop being mean if she just gifts him some rosewood oil. I mean, I'm trying to think of the most funny hyperbolic situation that Marianne Williamson could get into if she were actually chief executive. She'd go to the war zone, she'd go to the front in Ukraine itself with a bundle of flowers, and she'd start going up to random Russian snipers' nests and then poking flowers into the edge of their weapon or something like that scene from the Vietnam protests. And it would just be hilarious. Maybe we should put her in office after all. Yeah, the economy will probably collapse and World War III will eventually culminate, but in the meantime, you'll have Mariannewilliamson hippie memes. I mean, this is nuts. No, emotion in government is not a good thing. That's how you get bad laws. It's always because emotion is always misused in the public context. It's like, we must ban this thing because be afraid. Oh, kids might suffer. We need more internet censorship because kids might be bullied. We need more anti-gunnery because a kid might get shot. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, oh, well, the same internet that allows little Jimmy to potentially use AI to make millions of dollars, yeah, let's deprive him of that. Because little Sally over there had mean words said to her on Instagram. That makes a lot of sense. Hey, let's get rid of the militia entirely so we can all be abused by the emo campaign government because then 10 kids will survive into the next school year. That seems counterproductive. I think more kids would die when burglars shoot them and their parents can't shoot back. See, the laws make no sense. The proposals that are made using emotion use emotion because there's no logical framework on which they can be based. If you were to explain the nuance, go back in time, post 9/11, Patriot Act era, and explain the ins and outs of the Patriot Act, what it actually pragmatically accomplishes and does. So digging through people's library records, directly violating the Fourth Amendment, which was not upheld by the courts, by the way. Snooping in people's garbage to find out whether they're loyal. Massively expanding government spending as a real conservative, by the way. And then subsequently starting several wars on credit that were not even pertinent to the situation. If you were to explain that actual zeitgeist of laws and government actions at the time, and you didn't cover it up with, well, we need to make sure that our children's over here is safe to go to school and Al-Qaeda won't come in to shoot the school or something like that. When you get rid of the fear and the emotion and you just look at the raw data, the budget, and you think a little bit critically about the actual fallout of what will happen from that bill and realize it would have no impact on terrorism or anything like that, it would never have been supported. So it was the Patriot Act. Oh, you think of star-spangled bullshit, you think of fireworks and stuff. Marianne Williamson is just using a different facade of emotion to cover up the fact that she's effectively a fucking commie. It's just that instead of using star-spangled bullshit, she talks about love beads. It sounds like, fucking Cheech and Chong's presidential campaign or something like that. I guess the one saving grace, she's got a bunch of pothead voters that they'll forget to go to the polls, though, Marianne. So, like on election night, if you haven't already dropped and endorsed someone, which eventually, you're clearly not going to win a single state. That's not going to happen. Your voters wouldn't even remember to go to the polls. Or they'd be passed out on the couch where they ate too much with the munchies and then they fell into a food coma, and scarfed down too many nachos. The jokes write themselves. That's about all. Peace out.